Getting engaged is a moment worth cherishing. A one-of-a-kind ring that you design at Blue Nile can help your love sparkle. Just choose your diamond and setting. When you've found the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Finding the right engagement ring can be nerve-wracking. At Blue Nile, you'll have the expert guidance needed and a diamond guarantee that ensures you're getting the highest quality at the best price. Cherish all of life's moments and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at Marines.com.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Archery has been around for 10,000 years. It was first contested as a competitive sport in medieval England. It's been a permanent fixture on the Olympic programme since 1972 and on the Paralympic programme since it began in the 60s. And this summer at Tokyo 2020, it stages its first mixed team competition. So not only is it a traditional sport, it's a highly inclusive sport. So why does it get a bit of a raw deal in Britain? This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy. This is the podcast speaking to the people behind the scenes of British sport. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and we're here at Archery GB HQ in Lilleshall to ask the man whose job is not only to grow a sport that's been around since Robin Hood, but whose job it is to win Olympic and Paralympic medals and attract new sponsors and investment after the main sport funding was cut after Rio 2016.
I'm Neil Armitage, Chief Executive of Archery GB.
And Neil, you're a relative newcomer to the world of sport, so tell us how you came to arrive at Archery GB then.
Yeah, I was invited to join Archery GB as a non-executive director back in 2015, and that's because I got to know archery as a sponsor. So the firm I was working for at the time, I was marketing director. I was looking for a sponsor, and it was in almost in the lead up to the London Games. So I sponsored Archery GB and then left that organisation. And in that meantime, I was asked if I would apply to take up a role as non-exec director for Archery GB, which I did. And then I'll fast forward several months. I was invited to apply to become the CEO of Archery GB. So I came from a world which was very commercially focused, in financial services, and thrust into the world of sport. But I remember at the time when I was looking for potential organisations to sponsor, to give me a piece of the action, if you like, at London 2012. I remember saying to one of my team at the time that I really, having made a connection with archery, I really thought the organisation had some phenomenal potential. It gives the sport gives individuals an opportunity to take part in sport when they are not the naturally buff, muscle-bound physiques of the sports athlete stars that you see on the world stage. It gives individuals an opportunity to practice sport that maybe weren't always picked for their school football team or weren't always picked for their school netball team. Anyone can do it, from whatever background, whether you're disabled, whether you're able-bodied, whether you're young, old, short, tall, fat, thin, it really doesn't matter. I mean, one of the initiatives that we're involved in is encouraging Muslim girls into the world of archery. firstly, they can practice sport whilst in any kind of attire, so they can still observe their religious convictions. You can actually shoot arrows in a full burqa if you so wish. So we've been involved in helping young Muslim girls get into the field of sport, and we've done this with something called Project Ramaya, which is Arabic for archery. And one thing that we discovered was there is a really strong cultural connection with the Muslim religion and archery. It's one of the few sports that's actually mentioned in the Quran as being a sport that the Prophet Muhammad favours. So we are really keen to embrace with the Muslim community in Great Britain. I think after we've had such a divisive political situation with Brexit, etc., it offers an opportunity to use sport to bring communities back together again. So we're really keen to explore this with the Muslim community. We've got a scheme running at the moment in the West Midlands with 3 schools where we've encouraged young girls to come forward, participate in the sport, but also move up and become ambassadors for our sport as well. And we're really, really pleased at the level of uptake that we've got and the level of engagement with these young ladies. So we're delighted with that.
And you mentioned a great example of inclusivity. And as we said in the intro, why does archery get such a raw deal then when it comes to British sport?
Yeah, I think there's some history behind the sport. I mean, firstly,
not Robin Hood history.
No, that's a great legend, but I think if you even look back further than Robin Hood, archery was a sport which young boys had to practice to be compliant with the laws of the land at that time. Well, since fortunately we've relaxed those statutes. But I think one of the aspects why we feel archery gets a bit of a rough deal is around the level of protection that playing fields get from sports, and it's mentioned in the Town and Country Planning Act specifically that the 2015 order around planning applications protects sports like football, American football, rugby, cricket, hockey, baseball, softball, Australian football, and cycle polo. But archery isn't mentioned in any of these protected spaces. And clearly you need a lot of space to shoot arrows. So we're constantly trumped by those that are named in that piece of legislation. They can effectively put on a football pitch right in the middle of an archery shooting range, and we can't do anything about it. So we're really keen to raise the agenda, to put archery on the agenda, because it gives an opportunity for the less athletic individuals in the country to actually get active.
So as CEO, who do you go to lobby to try and get that changed?
MPs that favour our sport, and podcasts such as this. We're really keen to broaden that agenda and to get our message across. But certainly, I don't overlook any opportunity to talk about it.
Let's talk a little bit more about you. And as you said, you were in that financial services world. How different is the corporate world to the world of Olympic, Paralympic and mass participation sport?
It's incredibly different, as you might imagine. I think there are, if we talk about the similarities, clearly financial services is a very heavily regulated sector of the business world. And when I came into sport, it was before the launch of the UK Sport Governance Code. And I see a lot of similarities now in bringing regulation and into the world of sport, and it's following very much similar principles to the regulation that was placed on financial services. And I think it's a good thing because, if you get the governance right and the integrity issues right, you can focus on being proactive and not reactive. So you get a much better outcome for your sport, for your athletes, for your general participants, because you're not firefighting, keeping the wolf from the door around governance issues and integrity issues. So for me, there are parallels, and I think there are beneficial parallels, whilst any kind of organisation rolls their eyes somewhat when the regulator knocks on the door. Well, I think the lessons that have been learned in the financial services world, and now the lessons that are being learned organically in the sporting world under this guise of governance, are really, really beneficial to the sport.
So in terms of the world of sport and allegations that there's been around doping or bullying in various organisations, is that sports banking crisis? Is that sports credit crunch?
Possibly, but I think it's whatever subject matter the media really want to focus on. In my opinion, who is flavour of the day or not. In archery, doping has never really been a problem. It's a low risk sport. The risk doesn't come from any performance enhancing drugs and prohibited substances, but sometimes you can get inadvertent doping from taking supplements. So at Archery GB, we have a food first policy, so we'll encourage athletes to take their nutrition via actual food rather than supplements. But there's only really been a handful of doping issues in archery that I'm aware of in decades and decades of the sport.
So when you came in as the CEO, you have to, at Archery GB, you take kind of all the home nations.
Yep.
And you're kind of the umbrella organisation for that. How did you find that working with different nations? And obviously they have their own maybe agenda as well, but you're kind of the overarching, to coin a phrase, in charge of the sport.
Yeah, there's never a problem in overarching, is there? I find it incredibly engaging, to be quite honest. We have a Scottish Archery Association, we have Archery Northern Ireland, we have Archery England, and of course Wales. And we engage with those home nation governing bodies as much as we can. We like to ensure that our strategy and their strategies are harmonious. Those organisations really come into their own, looking at being able to deliver archery in a local environment with the local constraints and opportunities that exist. Because we can't do everything, we can't cover everything, but we do work very closely with the home nation organisations. In fact, I sit on the board of Archery Northern Ireland, so we do very much like to keep a very close connection with the home nation.
And you put together your strategic objectives, which is to grow and sustain participation for both Olympic and Paralympic sport, deliver and sustain medals for those sports as well, and reduce the reliance on external funding, which I think is quite an interesting strategic objective, especially with your experience from the financial sector. Was that a key thing that you needed to come in and do for Archery GB?
Well, I think any organisation that's so reliant upon a limited source of funding, that introduces a level of risk. Funding diversity clearly mitigates that risk, so it became, for me, really an important strand to our strategy. But it's tough. It's really tough. Back in the day when I picked up the phone when I was a sponsor and phoned Archery, and
so that doesn't happen now.
Well, I'm still waiting for the call.
No one's rung you in the way you rang.
Sadly not. No,
right.
Sadly not. But I think the commercial world is a real challenge. But we have to evolve. We have to evolve as a sector. The sector has seen investment from central government into sport for a long, long time, and we run a very different model than other nations in the world, but clearly it works. Being engaged in sport helps society, helps the economy, and helps the health of the nation. And I think the government should continue to invest in sport because it is a solution to several other features of our society. from reducing gun crime to helping youngsters gain self-confidence and combat to mental health challenges. Sport is one of those really valuable tools, and I think that the British government has recognised that and has continued to invest. However, there are great challenges on the public purse now than ever before, so I think sports have to accommodate and be aware that there is going to be financial pressure to diversify our income streams. Do I think the government should still be investing in sport? Absolutely, yes. But I think there is a risk that the government could reduce that funding. So we need to be more fleet of foot and be able to extend our sustainability, our financial sustainability, into other spheres. So here at Archery GB, we're looking at a whole range of solutions, not necessarily just sponsorship, but gaining sponsorship is incredibly tough at the moment. The market's changed and evolved, whereas the start of my career, it was literally bums on seats, eyes on adverts and brand mentions. But now sponsorship has become much more sophisticated, and brands want levels of engagement from fans and level of engagement from participants rather than just a finite number. So we're working very hard to ensure that we're moving with the times and we're keeping our fans and our participants and our athletes engaged by more active social media, more active and more interactive membership products. And we're really looking forward to expanding that even further as we invest more in major events for Archery GB, which we had our last major event in 2016, but I think the opportunities that now exist for greater engagement when you place a major event in a city, then that introduces that sort of social and economic impact where engagement with fans and engagement with your participants in that particular city can bring a raft of alternative financial benefits.
So when you talk about funding models, Archery GB originally lost UK sport funding and then obviously has picked up some funding with the Aspiration Fund. Do you think the model, in a way, is set up wrong because it's too focused on medal moments and less on participation in sports like basketball, badminton, and your own sport?
Yeah, it's a conundrum. There'll always be this conundrum with mass participation versus funding for getting medal success. But I think both aspects have inspirational moments within their specific audiences. Clearly, medals being won at major multi-sport events like the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games are phenomenally positive for those in the sport and can attract and introduce the sport to those that don't necessarily see that a smaller sport, a minority sport on the TV. So generally after a games or after a big international event which features an archery nation, we do generally see an uplift in participation. So there is a link. Should the funding be separated? I don't think so. I think the funding model works reasonably well at the moment. We've had our ups and downs. And I think one of the biggest challenges, obviously, as you mentioned, when we lost our Olympic funding, but I think it was around a little bit of self-belief. We at Archery GB had very solid ambitions of wanting to deliver medals on a world stage. And I think the challenge that we had when we lost the funding was not to dismantle that infrastructure, which I believed could deliver us medals. So we had to move things around financially somewhat, but I wanted to ensure that I retained the key people in that high performance structure, which fortunately we were able to do, and then set to work. Firstly, trying to ensure that we got some medal success on World Championship, World Cup finals and World Cup stages, but also keep up the lobbying. So we participated in the hashtag Every Sport Matters campaign, and I'm really grateful to individuals like Dame Catherine Granger who sat and listened, and Liz Nichol at UK Sport, formerly at UK Sport, again gave us an opportunity to speak and to talk to the individuals making those decisions about our perspective. And I think the introduction of the medal support plan and the aspirational fund have been, tonics for us. And we're living proof that kind of funding mechanism can work. Fast forward to from when we lost the funding to June in 2019, we brought home medals from the World Championships, which helped us along the pathway to resecuring funding. I remember sitting in an appeal session with UK Sport and uttering those immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, "I'll be back," and we were back with a haul of medals, and that funding, that aspiration funding, medal support plan funding, really helped us along that pathway. But I think the key issue was, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I was able to retain the key people to make those medals happen.
This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy, and we're here at Archery GB HQ in Lilleshall talking to CEO Neil Armitage. You mentioned about the World Championship medals. You won European Games medals as well with Team GB. So going into Tokyo, archery hasn't won a medal for Britain since Athens 2004. Is that pressure, or do you actually feel now in a much better place than, say, before London 2012 or 2016?
Yeah. I mean, it predates me, all of these things. We are in a phenomenal position this time round, because I think the way that we dealt with the funding, the loss of funding in 2016. And then we started on the pathway. We won World Championships medals in 2017. And in 2019, so only last year, at the World Championships, we won for the Olympics a full set of quota places. Now, that hasn't been done by a non-Asian archery nation since I can't find any records thereof. So we are in a really strong position. We've got a good squad of male, female athletes going forward. We've got an increased and enhanced medal opportunity because we've now seen a mixed team event, which is going to feature for the first time in archery in Tokyo. So we've got really strong men, really strong women. We like more depth of field, so we're focusing in the next cycle on developing our pathway. But certainly to go into the Olympics, being over a year out from the Games and having a full set of quota places, gives us that air of confidence that hasn't been present in previous game cycle.
And in the Paralympic programme, there has been tremendous medal success and a great amount of funding as well. So you must, heading towards the 2 games later on this year, you must have certain cause for optimism.
Yeah,
cautious.
I'm an optimistic sort of guy. So we've managed to achieve, as I say, full set of quota places for the Olympics, and we're almost there with the Paralympians at the moment. But yeah, Rio was a phenomenal success for us. It was my first games in the sport. I went to the Paralympics, and we
finished top of the table.
Well, we came away with 6 medals, 3 of which were gold. We had one of those once-in-a-lifetime moments when I was stood in front of the podium and we had won bronze, silver and gold in a single event. And I remember singing the national anthem with tears streaming down my face. It was just one of those moments. I have a photograph of the 3 Union Jacks, the 3 athletes on the podiums. It's my proudest moment ever.
So let's say the summer is successful in Tokyo, and then go back to something you mentioned earlier about bringing large archery events to this country and how important that might be. How much then is it going to disappoint you as a sport that's based in the Midlands that you can't then go to Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games in 2022 and harness all that excitement and those potential medals you've won and do it in some iconic West Midlands-based venue?
I am incredibly frustrated by the position that we find ourselves in. We started as soon as I found out that the Commonwealth Games was going to be hosted in Birmingham.
It's just up the road from you.
Indeed. we're in the heart of the Midlands, the heart of archery country. And when I found out that Birmingham were going to be hosting the games, I immediately picked up the phone and talked to the organisers and said, "Come on, we've got to get archery in here." After the end of that process, we were invited to pitch as an option sport because archery is not a core sport within the Commonwealth Games.
It's only been in 2 editions, is that right?
Yeah, sadly so. But we were in Delhi in 2010. 2010 when we actually walked away with a gold medal, or a team gold medal. So that was our last Commonwealth Games appearance. But as you mentioned, when the Birmingham Games were announced, I was really, really frustrated not to have archery in as a core sport. So I started on really a campaign of harassment on the Commonwealth Games Federation to try and get archery in the games. So we were invited to pitch. We were one of 5 sports, and there was only shooting and archery that were not picked of the option sports.
Did they give a reason?
A whole host of reasons, yeah. I think largely financial, but their assessment model is skewed towards, about 35% towards the financial contribution.
So does that mean venues? It was going to be too expensive to stage archery?
The whole package was going to be too expensive to stage archery, and the ticket sales and broadcast opportunities were more limited than for other sports. However, I'm still very keen to push for archery being engaged with the games. I've kept dialogue going with the Commonwealth Games Federation. In fact, I'll be seeing Dame Louise Martin and David Grafenberg next week. I'm keeping pressure on the Minister for Sport, whoever he or she is right now. I'm not quite sure. But certainly Nigel Adams was helpful, I think, in triggering a number of conversations. But I think particularly the features of archery and the connection to the West Midlands are incredibly strong. Firstly, we're here. We're at Lillishall in the Midlands. Secondly, we've got Birmingham with a population of 22% of Muslims, and we have a sport which is phenomenally well connected culturally to the Muslim community. So for me, there's an opportunity for a real good, positive social impact, particularly in a post-Brexit Britain when we need some unification, opportunities to unify communities across Britain, and sport is a great opportunity, and in particular, archery in the West Midlands would be an incredibly positive move to help bring those communities together. I'm not giving up. We're still.
What could happen though? Will they turn around and go, actually, Neil, you're right, we need to have it in the games?
Or potentially like shooting, talking about having their own event anyway?
Well, archery is including in the shooting proposition. So the proposition is that the archery and shooting events take place in India in the month of March, I think, prior to the Games. That's the proposal that's on the table. I know the CGF are meeting about it and discussing it either this week or next week. I think it's unlikely that move will change. And to be quite honest, having the support of another country bailing the British government out, I think it's a positive outcome for the sport in general. I don't think it's particularly positive for Archery GB. We'd certainly want an opportunity for all of the home nations for archery to showcase their sport and their prowess on home turf. It's a once-in-a-career opportunity to have those home games. However, we're still continuing dialogue. What could happen is, what I'm pushing for is lots of archery opportunities in the lead up to the games, during the games, in fan zones, have-a-goes, and we would like to very much enjoy a legacy and leave a legacy after the games by that level of archery engagement. We've got some other propositions which I'm going to keep up my sleeve at the moment.
Some various activations that might happen.
There are a number of conversations going on still, yeah. And, I think We were praised by the Birmingham 2022 sports panel. We were praised for the quality of the bid that we made. We're just frustrated by the outcome, but it ain't over yet.
The IOC particularly are obsessed with youth, as we know now, and trying to find disciplines that appeal to young people, and their programme is changing. Where the IOC goes, the CGF follows to a certain extent, so that's why we've got things like 3-on-3 basketball coming. Does archery, in a way, need to come up with its equivalent of 3-on-3 basketball or its 2020 cricket to try and attract, as you said earlier, the ticket sales and the broadcast?
Well, we have a competition format which is a head-to-head. And if you're looking at 3 people teams, 3 men or 3 women, or indeed mixed, if you're looking at the team sport, then it's really edge of your seat stuff, because the athletes have to fire arrows in a really short space of time. So they have to be absolutely ready to step up to the line, load their arrows, shoot them off. If one archer takes too long, then they're robbing their teammates of the luxury of some time. So for me, it's quite a compelling and interesting and exciting thing to watch. I mean, it's very much, look at the popularity of darts on the TV now. Well, archery is like very, very fast darts, like 150 mile an hour darts.
Well, you think, how much coverage a woman playing in the darts got in January, and you, as I said earlier, you're a sport that allows men and women to play together, compete together, now in a team in the Olympics. Sometimes it just beggars belief, the decisions that get made.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. We're frustrated by it, but, we're doing something about it. We're ensuring that we have, for example, we've got an ambition, which we've hit, to have equal number of judges from both genders. We're aiming to have an equal number of coaches, being gender equal, and I certainly would like the membership of Archery GB to reflect that population mix, both gender and ethnicity, of the whole of the UK. So that's going to be, I think, one of our future ambitions going forward. Engaging with youth is key, but the opportunities, as I say, we're kind of not a mainstream sport. So my job is to raise the profile of that, to engage with the youth, to bring more varied individuals into the sport from a complete mix of ethnicities that reflect that of the UK population.
I've been stalking your Twitter feed, for example, and all of your retweets are about, or most of your retweets are about, engaging with the youth and getting young people involved. It's clearly something that's very, very high on your agenda. How do you go about making archery something that's relevant for young people when, in a way, for a lot of children who go away maybe and do summer camps and things, it is a pursuit that young people will get the opportunity to try?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a really strong youth programme going on at the moment. Archery is part of the school games. So in last year, for example, we had about 145 inter-school competitions with nearly 9,000 participants within in the school games. We've had an extremely successful campaign with our Ambassadors and Mentors programme. We launched that in 2018, and we've recruited now about 35 people, 17 young ambassadors who are going out talking about archery in their local archery clubs, their local communities, their own schools, and we've delivered over 450 activities from young people by young people. I didn't expect to get so many young people keen on being ambassadors for our sport. I think it just goes to show the passion with which individuals are connected to the sport. It is one of those things that it becomes so addictive. I do remember when then Catherine Granger came here, and she was very keen to shoot some arrows, and she wouldn't. Any good? She wouldn't give it up until she got several arrows right in the gold.
Surprise me.
Yeah, just one more go. Just one more go.
Anyone?
Always going for that gold, which she did. Look, we wish you all the best of luck for the Olympics and the Paralympics, and with your persuasion or harassing, as you called it, for Birmingham 2022. But Neil Armitage, CEO of Archery GB, thank you very much for talking to Great British Bosses.
Thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.